is now being seen as a wounded general. And this is the kicker. Azimio Chief Raila Odinga appears to be losing his political grip amid the onslaught by President William Ruto. His troops in parliament are shifting loyalties, with his traditional vote bastions are slowly being chipped away. Is he down and out, or will he fight back? That's the bigger question that they have asked here. So that story again has been covered extensively on pages 4 and 5, and this coming on the backdrop of the announcement by the Azimio coalition, that is also the one that came in through Martha Karua, that they'll be going back to the people. So essentially them saying it's back to Maandamano, all right? And this is what they're saying here. We're going back to the people. That's essentially what that story is reading down there. Yes, that the only time we've suffered longer than we should, the only time we've allowed dictators to rule us longer than they should, is when we have been divided. But people can never be helpless in their own country against their own leaders, not in a democratic or in a democracy, sorry, like ours, not even in a dictatorship, as they are trying to recreate. That story has been covered again on pages 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation, so you do know exactly what you're looking forward into. And by the way, that particular story is of key focus right here on Lookup TV. We're going to follow that particular plan by the Azimio coalition, because we are going to meet them Tuesday, so we see exactly what their plan is at the time when majority of the taxes that they claim 90% of Kenyans said no to have essentially been passed in the Finance Bill 2023. And this is exactly why they want to go back to the street. Now, here's what you have to brace yourself as from July 1st as a Ruto taxes take effect. So now let's talk about how this is essentially bound to affect your income. So if you take home a gross salary of 50,000, currently you'll be taking home 41,457, so about 8,000 and something going back to taxes. Now that reduces back to 39,916 shillings as essentially the new taxes kick in. Under that, payee you will see yourself pay 6,879. NHIF, you pay 1,375 from 1,200. NSSF to 1,080 from 200. Housing fund, you pay 750 shillings, and deductions then essentially go from 8,543 from the current tax plan in the government to 10,084. So somebody who's earning a gross salary of 50,000 shillings takes home 39,916. Somebody who previously would take home 41,457. Now you know. All right, let's talk about somebody who's earning 100,000 shillings. Currently, payee will be pegged at 23,125. NHIF will be pegged at 2,750 from 1,700. NSSF 1,080, same across the board. Housing fund 1,500 shillings. Deductions essentially go all the way to 28,455 from 24,043 shillings. So the take home previously was at 75,957. Now in this new one, you'll only take home 71,545 shillings as from July 1st. Good. That's a bigger story there, and you're going to read also that particular story on page 7. But those are the highlights. Good. On the top page of the page of the Daily Nation, you're going to see how there's this new issue of how unga prices are going to shoot up as millers are warning of blooming maize shortage. Again, that story has been covered on page 12. Now they say that the government has failed to settle an outstanding debt of 2.5 billion shillings for maize subsidy program. All right. Headlines after headline. Good. That's exactly what has been covered on page on the Daily Nation. Sorry, on the back of the news that DJ involved in the Babu Wino's case. Now he's talking about how he did not see Babu Wino shoot him. Read that story on pages 12 on the back line of 16.7 billion shillings for elderly orphans released. That story on the back page. Fantastic. Good. Let's cross over to the Standard this morning then. So we can also get to see what it is that they've given prominence in this particular daily. Now, this is what the headline is touching, that the hustler Spain begins. That is the headline there. Now, with the finance bill set to be signed into law by President Ruto, that's essentially next week, Kenyans are bracing themselves for full impact of approximately 12 shillings a litre rise in the cost of fuel, which will push up the cost of transport, production and essential commodities, even as salaried workers are hit by the housing tax. That story has been covered extensively on page 6 of the Standard. Now, the bigger issues here is how 12 shillings is the expected rise in the cost of fuel in the country. So if you're buying it at 182 now, as from July 1st, there's a potential of you buying it at 194, just 6 shillings shy, 200 shillings a litre of petrol in the country, with diesel also expected to reach 180 plus shillings, and a litre of kerosene, which is 168 now, would also shoot up to maybe 180 shillings. Now, a 3% new turnover tax on small businesses with an income of 1 million and 25 million shillings, up from 1%. There's also the excise duty on imported sugar that is pegged at 5 shillings. And there's also 5,000 shillings advance tax for commercial vehicles, set to push up transport costs again. Now, housing tax will be pegged at 1.5. And this is what they're saying. The higher cost of fuel and consequently production will result in a higher price of goods and may impact the cost of living negatively, and hence government's quest to grow economy. That's according to the Petroleum Institute of East Africa. That is a bigger story today, that indeed is just now 8 days away from those taxes coming into effect. Good. That is the bigger story here on the Standard. Read it on page 6. And now on page 4, there's how the embattled Siaya Deputy Governor, that is Oduor, says MCAs bribed to finish him. That's exactly what he told the Senate yesterday. And there's also a story about how confusion is now rocking schools as learners have been sent home early for half-term, with questions now arising as some learners have been sent home for mid-term nearly a week early, with some citing inadequate funding and the ongoing sub-county music festival, in addition to the upcoming head teachers conference. So back home a week early. All right, I don't know what this means for majority of parents then. Now, on the back page, I gotta say this there. On the back page of the Standard, they're asking questions on who essentially might lift the Ballon d'Or this time around. We do have Mbappe, we do have Neymar, we do have Erling Haaland and Vinicius Jr. Who do you think essentially will slot a top position in that particular award? Up to you. I keep on saying, by the way, Shabana FC is back to the FKF. So the only big news in the local football scene, all right? It means so much to them and us. So it's just not going to be about God from the Nyanza region. Shabana is back. How they'll perform is just for you and I to keep a tabs on it. All right, good morning. Let me take a tiny breather. Once we come back, I'll be taking you straight to the newsroom, where we get to share with you some of the biggest stories that you are waking up to as well this morning. Opposition coalition Azimio has threatened a return to mass protests in a standoff over the approval of the Finance Bill 2023. The faction has called for People's Baraza at Kamukunji, where the next course of action will be communicated. The opposition outfit has further castigated President William Ruto and his entourage for passing the Finance Bill